6 items you should never give or receive. Have you ever noticed how certain objects seem to carry an invisible weight? It's not just about the material they're made of. Sometimes it's the energy they hold. Imagine receiving a gift that, at first glance, seems like a kind gesture, but then you start to feel an inexplicable heaviness, a sense of unease. Suddenly your sleep is disturbed, your mood shifts, and things in your life begin to feel off. What if I told you that these objects could be carrying more than just their past owner's memories? What if the energy they've absorbed over time could subtly influence your life? Today we're diving into something that may sound surprising: the hidden power of the things we give and receive. From shoes that have walked through sorrow to old chairs that hold the weight of unspoken emotions, every object has a story, and the energy of that story can follow it. In this video, we're going to explore 6 things you should never give or receive, according to ancient wisdom, and how these items might unintentionally impact your energy in life. But before we get started, take a moment to think. What energy do you want in your life? If you're ready to protect your peace, elevate your spirit, and invite only positive energy into your home, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more insightful content. Join our community where we focus on cultivating mindfulness, peace, and a deeper understanding of how to live a fulfilling life. Let's explore how the things around us can shape our inner world, and why being mindful of them is so crucial. Ready to unlock the secrets of what you should never give or receive? Let's dive in. 1. Used underwear, towels, and sleepwear. We often don't give much thought to the everyday items we use, things like underwear, towels, and sleepwear. But in reality, these are more than just items of convenience. They're deeply personal, intimately tied to our bodies and emotions. The Buddha often spoke of the importance of boundaries, self-respect, and mindfulness in all aspects of life. These simple daily objects, though we may not always notice it, carry powerful energy and imprint the emotions of the person who once used them. Imagine a towel that's dried the sweat of someone going through a stressful day, or sleepwear that's absorbed the restlessness of someone plagued by sleepless nights. These objects, so close to our skin, hold not just the physical residue of the previous owner, but also their emotional state. It might seem trivial, but when we receive these items, we may unknowingly inherit the emotional baggage that comes with them. This isn't just superstition. There's a deeper truth here. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to be mindful of what we invite into our lives. Just as we wouldn't let negative thoughts or harmful influences take root in our minds, we must also be cautious about the physical things we surround ourselves with. When you're offered something so personal, like used underwear, a towel, or even a set of sleepwear, ask yourself, does it feel right? If something about it feels off, trust that gut feeling. Your intuition is trying to protect you from absorbing energy that might not be yours to carry. There's a profound Zen teaching that illustrates this idea. A wise monk once told his disciple, "The things you touch leave traces on you, just as the things you give away carry pieces of you." It's not about the fabric or the item itself. It's about the energy that clings to it. Just as we cleanse our minds of negative thoughts, it's just as important to cleanse our physical space from items that carry unwanted emotional residues. Trust in the wisdom of mindfulness and be mindful of the energies you accept and pass on. 2. Old wedding rings or items tied to strong emotions. We all know the deep symbolism of a wedding ring. It's a timeless emblem of commitment, love, and unity. But in Buddhism, we are taught that everything is impermanent, and even the strongest of attachments can lead to suffering. While a wedding ring is meant to symbolize love, when a relationship ends, that ring can become heavy with unresolved emotions, grief, regret, or the shadows of a broken promise. Buddhist teachings speak of letting go of attachments, not just to people, but to things, especially things tied to past emotions. When someone gives away a wedding ring after a relationship ends, they may be unintentionally passing on the energy of that past, its heartbreak, its disappointments, its unresolved sorrow. It's more than just a piece of jewelry. It's a vessel of memories and emotions that were once shared. And when we accept something like this, we are unknowingly taking on that energy, dragging a shadow from someone else's past into our own present. A woman once shared her story of receiving a wedding ring from a close friend. The ring was beautiful, an elegant piece with sentimental value. At first she thought nothing of it, seeing it as a kind gesture. But soon she noticed something strange. Her thoughts were clouded by sadness, and she found herself reflecting on her own past heartaches more than usual. It was as if the ring held within it the sorrow of the past owner, and she was now carrying a weight she didn't fully understand. This is where Buddhist wisdom becomes crucial. We are reminded to start fresh, to not carry the burdens of past relationships or emotions. The Buddhist teachings on impermanence urge us to release attachments to things that no longer serve us, especially things that carry the emotional imprints of lost love or unfinished stories. When you accept a wedding ring from someone else, you might unknowingly take on the unresolved memories of that love. And in doing so, you hinder your own ability to create fresh, untainted beginnings. There's an ancient Buddhist parable that speaks to this. A monk was given a beautiful, ancient relic that had once belonged to a powerful king. The monk, seeing its beauty, felt a desire to keep it. But upon deep reflection, he realized that the relic was not just a treasure, it was a symbol of a past empire, of triumphs and betrayals, of glory and ruin. By holding on to it, he would carry the weight of that past forever. The monk chose to let the relic go, understanding that some things, no matter how beautiful, are best left in the past. In the same way, when we accept a wedding ring that once symbolized love now lost, we may unknowingly step into the emotional currents of that story, currents that are not ours to swim in. Buddhism teaches us to embrace the present, to honor new beginnings, and to free ourselves from the emotional baggage of the past. 3. Used wallets. A wallet is a deeply personal item, and it carries much more than just cash or cards. It holds the essence of our relationship with money, how we view it, handle it, and sometimes how it handles us. In Buddhist philosophy, attachment to wealth is often viewed as a source of suffering. The Buddha taught us that wealth is impermanent, and the desire for material possessions can easily become an attachment that weighs us down. Think about it. A wallet isn't just a container for your money. It is a symbol of your financial journey. Whether it has been a vessel for success and abundance, or a tool that has witnessed struggle and scarcity, it holds the energetic imprint of those experiences. Every crease, every scratch on a used wallet tells the story of how the previous owner has interacted with money, whether they have experienced stress over financial challenges or felt the peace of abundance. This energy doesn't just disappear when the wallet is passed on, it transfers along with the item, often unknowingly influencing the recipient. There's a story told among Buddhist practitioners of a man who inherited his father's old wallet after his father passed away. At first, the man felt honored to receive such a keepsake, a tangible connection to his father. However, as time went on, he noticed subtle shifts in his financial life. Despite earning the same income, he began to feel a growing sense of financial anxiety. Money seemed to slip through his fingers, no matter how hard he tried to save. It wasn't until he sought the counsel of a Buddhist monk that he realized what was happening. The wallet had been tied to his father's long struggles with poverty, and unknowingly, the man had inherited not just the wallet, but the emotional energy attached to it, the fear and scarcity that his father had carried throughout his life. The Buddha taught that attachment to material wealth creates dukkha, suffering, because wealth itself is transient. It can come and go, and the attachment to it leads to emotional turmoil. This story serves as a reminder that when we accept or pass on used items, especially something as personal as a wallet, we might unintentionally inherit the emotional residue of someone else's experiences. The energy tied to money, whether it's an attitude of scarcity, fear, or abundance, can influence how we interact with it. If you are someone who is trying to cultivate financial peace and balance, Buddhist teachings urge you to let go of any past attachment to wealth or money. Just as you wouldn't want to cling to the memory of an old love or hold on to anger from the past, you shouldn't hold on to financial fears or limiting beliefs. When you receive a used wallet, pause and ask yourself, does this wallet hold any emotional baggage from its past owner? Is there a mindset around money that no longer serves me? If the answer is yes, perhaps it's time to part ways with it and find a fresh start. Fourth, items from places with negative energy. Objects are not simply physical items. They hold energy, and this energy can be influenced by the environments in which they exist. In Buddhist teachings, there's an important practice known as space clearing, where we intentionally remove stagnant or negative energy from our living spaces. This practice is deeply rooted in the understanding that places where suffering, grief, or conflict have occurred can carry the emotional residue of those experiences. Think about objects that have been in places of deep emotional turmoil, hospital beds where loved ones spent their final days, worn-out chairs in which people struggled with illness, or furniture from a hospice room where someone breathed their last. Even though these items may look completely normal on the surface, they carry the energy of pain, loss, and suffering. The memories of these experiences are absorbed by the objects, and when we bring them into our own homes, we invite that energy into our space. There's a powerful Buddhist story about a monk who lived in a small village. One day, a neighbor gave him an old chair that had once belonged to a woman who had passed away after a long battle with illness. The chair had seen her suffering, her sleepless nights, and her final days. The monk, mindful of the energies around him, sat with the chair for a moment, sensing its heavy, somber energy. He realized that while the chair was physically intact, its history had soaked into its very fabric. He thanked the neighbor for the gift, but gently explained that he could not accept it. The chair, he said, carried the emotional weight of suffering, and it would be better for it to stay where it was, rather than bring that sorrow into his home. In Buddhist philosophy, there's a deep understanding of emptiness, the idea that everything is interconnected, and that the energy of an object can change depending on the circumstances in which it exists. A chair, for instance, doesn't just carry the shape of the person who sat in it. It carries the energy of their thoughts, their physical and emotional states, and their struggles. If those struggles were filled with pain, grief, or unresolved emotions, the chair absorbs that energy, and when it moves to a new space, it can subtly affect those who come into contact with it. This teaching urges us to be mindful not only of the objects we bring into our homes, but of the spaces from which they originate. If we accept items from places marked by grief or suffering, we might unintentionally invite the residual energy of that past into our present. Buddhist teachings remind us that we are constantly creating our environment, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And just as we cleanse our minds from negative thoughts, we must also be vigilant about the energies in our surroundings. In another Buddhist story, a monk tells of a time when he traveled to a remote temple. The temple had been abandoned for years and had once been the site of great suffering. As the monk meditated in the temple, he began to feel a heaviness, an oppressive energy in the air. He realized that the walls and floors had absorbed the pain of those who had once suffered there. He performed a ritual of space clearing, removing the stagnant energy and bringing peace to the space once again. This story serves as a metaphor for how we must care for our own spaces. By removing objects that hold negative energy, we create an environment that nurtures peace, clarity, and spiritual growth. When you bring items into your life, whether they are furniture, jewelry, or keepsakes, Ask yourself, what kind of energy does this object carry? Is it connected to a past full of pain and loss, or is it filled with peace and positivity? By practicing mindfulness and awareness, you can choose to only surround yourself with things that nurture your spirit and support your path toward emotional and spiritual balance. 5. Used shoes. Shoes are far more than simple articles of clothing. They are the silent companions on our journey through life, carrying us through the highs and lows of our experiences. Each pair of shoes tells a story of places we've walked, paths we've chosen, and struggles we've faced. In Buddhism, mindfulness is central to the way we move through life, for each step we take is a reflection of our inner state and our journey toward enlightenment. The Buddha taught us that every action, no matter how small, is significant on the path to wisdom. When we receive a pair of used shoes, we are not just inheriting a physical object, we are accepting the energy of the person who wore them before us. Shoes are deeply intertwined with our journey, and if those shoes have traveled through hard times, they bring with them the emotional weight of those struggles. Whether the previous owner walked through pain, failure, or sorrow, the energy of their experiences is embedded in the shoes. It might seem insignificant, but the energy we take on by wearing those shoes can affect us in ways we may not immediately recognize. There is a Buddhist parable that illustrates this idea beautifully. A young man seeking wisdom asked his teacher, "Master, how do I know if I am walking the right path?" The teacher handed him a pair of old sandals and said, "These sandals have been worn by many, walking through fields of joy and sorrow. They have known the weight of suffering and the lightness of happiness. The path you walk is not determined by where you step, but by how you walk with mindfulness." This story speaks to the fact that each step we take is infused with intention, and that our journey is shaped by the energy we bring to it. When we wear someone else's shoes, especially those that have been through hardship or hardship's shadow, we are inadvertently stepping into their emotional journey. We might feel a heaviness or sense of unease, not because of the shoes themselves, but because of the energy they carry. It's as though we are walking not just on the ground, but on the emotional landscape of someone else's past. Buddhism teaches us that in order to move forward on the path to peace, we must let go of attachments. To walk a new path, we must free ourselves from the stories and struggles of the past. When we wear shoes that carry the residue of someone else's journey, we are, in a sense, being tethered to their struggles. By choosing to walk in shoes that represent our own path, free from the burdens of others, we take control of our own destiny and forge a future rooted in our own experiences. A young man once inherited a pair of shoes from his father, a man who had endured years of hardship. At first, he wore them with reverence, believing they symbolized his father's strength. However, over time, he began to feel a strange, unshakable sense of anxiety whenever he wore them. His life, too, began to feel like an endless struggle. It was only when he let go of those shoes and chose a new pair, reflecting his own desires and intentions, that he felt his journey shift. The weight of his father's hardships had been unknowingly transferred to him through those shoes. This story teaches us an important lesson in Buddhism. To walk freely on our own path, we must detach from the energy of others. We are responsible for our own steps, our own growth, and our own journey. Let go of the past, let go of the attachments, and walk with intention, free from the burdens of others' journeys. 6. Old chairs. A chair may seem like a simple object, but in the quiet stillness of sitting, it holds the energy of the moments we experience while seated. A chair is where we rest, where we pause in our busy lives to reflect, to be still. In Buddhist practice, stillness is revered as a space for mindfulness and meditation. Yet stillness can also carry the weight of what has come before. Just as shoes absorb the stories of the paths they've walked, Chairs absorb the energy of those who have sat in them. They become vessels of quiet reflection, holding the unspoken emotions and unresolved sufferings of those who rested in them. The Buddha often spoke of the importance of cultivating sati, mindfulness, in our daily lives, especially in the act of stillness. Sitting quietly, whether in meditation or simply reflecting on our day, provides an opportunity for deep insight. But what happens when the chair we sit on has been imbued with the emotional energy of someone else's sorrow or pain? In one Buddhist story, a monk took a seat on an old wooden chair, a chair that had belonged to a hermit who had passed away after years of solitary reflection. The monk noticed that the chair, though sturdy and comfortable, felt heavy with unspoken grief. Every time he sat in it, his mind was clouded with sadness and despair, emotions that were not his own. When he inquired with the elder monks, they explained that the chair had absorbed the energy of the hermit's silent suffering. Despite being physically empty, the chair still carried the emotional residue of years of grief. This story teaches us a profound lesson about the energy that objects can carry. Chairs, like other objects, hold the essence of the moments in which they have been used. A chair that has been occupied by sorrow, fatigue, or frustration becomes a silent witness to those emotions. When we accept such an object into our own lives, we are unknowingly inviting those emotions into our space. Over time, the energy of unresolved feelings can seep into our own lives, affecting our mood, our mental state, and even our physical well-being. Buddhist teachings urge us to be mindful of the environments we create, both internally and externally. Our possessions, whether they are chairs, furniture, or other objects, hold an emotional charge, a residue of the past. When we bring these items into our homes, we must ask ourselves, what energy do they carry with them? Does this chair hold the energy of suffering or serenity? And if it holds the energy of suffering, do we need to welcome that into our lives? A woman once inherited a chair from her mother, a chair where her mother had sat for many years in quiet contemplation, struggling with the losses she had faced in life. At first, the woman felt comforted by the connection to her mother, but over time, she began to feel a deep sense of sadness whenever she sat in the chair. Her thoughts became clouded with melancholy, and she found herself disconnected from her usual sense of peace. It wasn't until she moved the chair out of her home that the heaviness lifted. The chair had held on to her mother's grief, and by releasing it, she made space for her own emotions to flow freely. This story emphasizes the Buddhist teaching that everything is impermanent, and that we must let go of the attachments that bind us to the past. In the same way, we must also release the energy of objects that no longer serve our well-being. The act of letting go of an item, like an old chair, does not just release the physical object, it releases the emotional weight it carries. Through these teachings, we learn that our environment has a profound effect on our inner state. The objects we keep, the spaces we create, and the things we hold on to, whether consciously or unconsciously, shape our lives. By practicing mindfulness, we can create a living space that nurtures peace, clarity, and emotional freedom. Let go of what no longer serves you and make space for new experiences, fresh perspectives, and a life free from the burdens of the past. Let your path be light, and let your seat be one of peace and stillness, free from the weight of yesterday. The items we give and receive are not just physical objects. They are vessels for the emotions, memories, and energies of the people who once owned them. In Buddhism, we are taught to be mindful of the attachments we create and the energy we bring into our lives. It's essential to protect our peace and balance by choosing only those things that enhance our well-being. As you move forward, remember the wisdom of the Buddha. Be mindful of the energy you welcome into your life. If something feels heavy, if it makes you uneasy, trust your intuition. Protect your spirit by choosing only the items that promote lightness and peace. May you always walk your path with awareness and wisdom, free from the burdens of the past.